Hey friends, I don't have a setup like all these famous YouTubers have where like the sound is perfect and the room is perfect. So this room is not great for videoing, recording, but we're gonna make do. What this room is great for, it's great for talking about relationships. It's great for helping people overcome challenges, and it's great for paperwork. This room is amazing for paperwork, and it happens right over there around the corner. Um, so I want to talk about something from my book that I released in August. It's called Relationship Reconnected. And it's a book basically to help couples and partners and people in relationships essentially work through difficult conversations or work through ongoing continuous fights that they keep having. I think that was an oxymoron. Ongoing continuous fights that they keep having. Yeah, it could have been an oxymoron. But anyways, it's a book about helping people through difficult conversations. And there's 4 parts to getting through a difficult conversation that most people don't realize and most people don't take advantage of. And so because I'm left-handed, I'm going to have to go on this side of the board because I'll just like cover up everything. So there, I just did a transition. I should have like done it differently, but now I'm on this side of the board. Hello. Um, so one of the things that when couples get into arguments, and you may have experienced this yourself, is that you start an argument and then you start making accusations to one another, or you start making assumptions about the other person. And so, for example, you're talking about some difficult topic and the person across from the table from you is getting emotional. And so you immediately say, you need to stop being so emotional, or why are you so emotional? That's called a diagnosis. And when you do that in an argument with somebody, immediately that other person wants to defend themselves, and internally they may like put their fists up and they're ready to go. I mean, they're going to say, well, you're being accusatory or you're being whatever. And then it just goes back and forth. And then the topic of the argument, of discussion, it just doesn't get resolved because you're making accusations and you're assuming things about the other person. So one of the things that I encourage couples and families to do is when there's been a fight, and you can talk about it more calmly, either maybe the next day or a couple hours later, the way to start doing that is, number one, stick to the facts. This would be the number one reason I think that most arguments become blown out of proportion, is because people aren't sticking to the facts. You're sticking to the facts of your opinion, but you're not sticking to the facts. And what the facts look like is something like this. So yesterday when we were arguing, I walked into the room, you were sitting on the couch. That's factual. I said something to you and you said something back to me. That's factual. I left the room and you followed me out of the room. That is factual. Those are the things that everyone can agree on that was in this conversation or argument or whatever it was. And those are the things that if you stick to that, there's not going to be this back and forth biting of one another, this back and forth sniping. That's not true. You were rude, whatever. You got to stick with the facts. So you go A, then B happened, then C happened, then D happened, so on and so forth. Okay? Then the next thing you want to do is, after you agree to what the facts are in your discussion with your partner or your whoever, you want to go to what were the feelings that happened during this argument. Now, this is where you're probably going to want to take turns. Maybe you were in the argument and you had no feelings. You just were confused on what was going on. That's a feeling. You had some confusion. And so perhaps this argument was happening and you felt hurt. You felt annoyed, irritated, right? And so then your partner can talk through the argument with you. Maybe they felt betrayed or confused, unimportant, right? So there's all these different feelings that go on in these arguments, but usually people ignore that and they just plant their feet in and they get defensive and then they start arguing. and they don't ever acknowledge or talk about the feelings that are actually going on inside when this fight is happening. And so what I encourage people to do is, when they can, hopefully it's the day after, but when they can, is to talk it through factually and then talk about the feelings that were brought up. Now, in my book, there's 2 more steps, and I haven't decided if I'm going to post a video about those 2 more, about the 2 steps, because hey, let's be honest, I want you to buy my book. And buying my book, you'll have all 4 steps in there. I'm just being transparent with you guys. And so if you want to get my book, it's on Audible, it's on Amazon. You search for Relationship Reconnected and you can find it. But I guarantee you, if you work through these steps, you're going to have a radically different relationship, and you're going to have a radically different way that you interact with one another. Because what happens if you don't work through these steps is, and you don't talk about the feelings that get brought up when certain topics come up, and you keep sweeping it under the rug. You sweep things under the rug, think, oh, we'll get over that. It happens over and over again. You start emotionally disconnecting from one another. When you get emotionally disconnected from one another, you start you start losing emotional feelings towards that person. And then you get to the place where, like, we're not in love anymore. We don't have anything in common. And then you end up getting into a divorce. And that's the thing that I really don't want couples to do. Because it hurts couples, it hurts families, it hurts extended families. And so if you were able just to start incorporating these 4 steps into your life, it could prevent divorce, actually, if you did it consistently. It's going to be hard to do as a couple because it feels kind of clunky when you do it, and it may be something that you've never done before. And so that's why it's helpful a lot of times to have a therapist with you to help you step through this process. And I actually do this a lot with the couples that come into my office, and I love doing it because we start talking about things that are going on inside the person, not what's going on outside with that other person. This is all about what's going on inside of you. I'm feeling hurt. I'm feeling annoyed. I'm feeling betrayed. I'm feeling confused. And the moment you can start talking about what's going on inside with you, and your partner is hearing that, that's the moment that you can start having an emotional connection with your partner. Hopefully this has been helpful. Love for you to get my book. We're halfway through the week. Weekend's coming. It's going to be great. Have a great weekend.